Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune, and he's ballyhooed at Lavelle Neal via X. Wolves win last night. Twins open today. Frozen Four in play. Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. NFL draft a month from today. And here comes the columnist, and we love him. The Timberwolves victory last night. All we do is make history. You grew up in Chicago during the Michael Jordan days. So, how can you not be an NBA fan when that happens? Jordan, Pippen, Horace Grant, Worm by their side. The overtime victory, the historical victory with Naz Reid gets ejected early overtime. Ayo Dosunmu is a day of scratch. Stifle fouls out late. Ant still out. Conley starts. Slow-mo's passing and playing defense. This thing was unbelievable. Good morning.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. What's the stat? In the last 29 years, teams it was like the greatest comeback in 29 years.
Yep.
Like teams were like 0 and 180. We're down by that much in overtime.
10 points. 10 points or more in overtime. Now 1 and 181.
Absolutely unbelievable comeback over the Houston Fosters. It was an impressive victory.
That'd be the OKC Fosters.
No. It's Houston now. Last night was the Houston Fosters. Yeah. Well, Scott Foster to the Wolves is like Hugh Hollins was to the Bulls.
And if the LA Lakers are in a position to get big-time weekend primetime games, well, it's the LA Fosters.
Yeah. So it was great to watch. It was exciting. It was great. It was on national television. You see guys step up. You see how Julius Randle was kind of a polarizing figure, but, he stepped up. Rudy Gobert. The thing that stands out to me is that this is a sign that they're still engaged. They still give a crap, and coaching still matters. So all this talk about Finchie may not be getting through to these guys or whatever. I think this 4-1 run without Anthony Edwards shows that they're still engaged and they're still Ubuntu, and they're going to hold the fort together until the act comes back. The ball movement's been great.
Yeah.
The defensive rating's been improved. Ayo Dosunmu's been a great addition.
He's awesome.
Bones Highland is entertaining as hell. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot of things I like about the Wolves right now. And I predict that they will catch the Lakers for third in the Western Conference.
And why do you predict that?
Because I just think that I looked at the remaining schedule. I liked some of the matchups they have. I looked at the Lakers' remaining schedule, and I think as it shakes out, I think they can run them down.
Oh, wow. Meanwhile, Joker back-to-back nights. He had a back-to-back. Big people, veterans, back-to-back, so this can be a little different. He had triple-doubles both games.
Did he almost have a 20-20-20 yesterday?
He had 19 assists, but like 23 rebounds, 26 points, something like that.
Yeah.
The night before, it was a triple-double again.
Triple 20 is even more impressive.
Yeah, Joker does not want to leave the Mile Get High City in the postseason, specifically in the first round, because he's playing like that right now. Dare I say it, and it's a medium sample size with Stifle Tower, with Rudy Gobert. Ooh, dare I say it. He's catching the ball off the bounce so well right now. Rudy's catching. Don't let Rudy catch it and run and dunk.
You better enjoy it while it lasts. All right. He's that guy. What was it? It was Bill Cartwright. Yeah. Michael Jordan just decided, because Cartwright would drop everything. He said, I'm just going to throw it at his face. And Cartwright had no chance but to catch the pass. So,
really,
if you have to give that treatment to Rudy to make sure he catches passes, go for it, man.
And you may have told me this story. Bill Cartwright, something happened on the bench between Bill Cartwright and Michael Jordan. Okay, and it triggered Bill Cartwright, veteran, Jordan young in his career, but he's en route to Air Jordan. And Bill basically, during the game, pulled him to the side of the huddle and said, here's the deal. If you ever talk to me like that again, what's going to happen to you is not going to be pretty for you. And Michael backed off and he had respect for him, but it went 10-10 after that.
Yeah, there was something like that early in Jordan's career with Cartwright, and they moved forward and they moved on and they moved upward. So those are the little, even the great ones have a couple teacher moments, that they have to go through. Ant has had a couple teacher moments during his young career as he's ascending to be one of the better players in the league. So that doesn't surprise me. It was a good tell.
Let's take a quick pause and get into the Twins and opening day with the columnist Lavelle Neal III on KFAN.
The Outlaw Music Festival is back. It's August 19th, Mystic Lake Amphitheater, featuring Willie Nelson, the Avett Brothers, Lucas Nelson, more. Tickets drop this Friday, that's tomorrow, at 10 a.m. So get the full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Lavelle E. Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune, covered the Minnesota Twins and was a baseball beat writer for 2 decades plus. Now he's a ballyhooed columnist for Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. But when it's opening day in Major League Baseball, that's something that resonates with old school, best school. That would be Lavelle E. Neal III. Each and every year, we had the Yankees and Giants last night to crack everything open. Twins opening day at Baltimore. JoJo toes the rubber for the Minnesota Twins, 2 hours and change from now. Twins opening day at Baltimore. What do you think about the whole thing?
Well, let's get through the season. Let's get this thing started so we can get through it. That's how I'm looking up. Let's see how this team comes out on the other side. A lot of things have to go right for this team
To do what?
To surprise.
Yeah.
And maybe have a winning season.
Just give the fans entertaining games.
Matt Wallner needs to tap into that 40 home run potential. Royce Lewis has to remember how to hit grand slams again.
He's hitting 8th today.
I know. Brooks Lee has to make more contact and more solid contact. If the bullpen pitches younger than what they are, they got a lot of very veteran guys in there now who don't have the top shelf talent that these other guys they traded a year ago had. If this whole new aggressive base running, base stealing, small ball mentality plays out, and that's a lot of ifs. So you know about ifs. If we're fifths,
yep,
we always have to take Uber home. Yep. So I just think it's going to be a rough year.
Man,
I got
really
him on
the picture.
I got him on 75 wins.
Why are you so tepid to say that? I mean, I'm not saying you're low hanging fruit guy. You're not, but I mean that's like the 92% opinion of everybody around the world.
I expect more activity during the trade deadline. And here's the thing. It's going to be great going over and watch the Saints this year. The Twins have 9 of their top 20 prospects on the Saints roster. Mm-hmm. Their outfield is going to be Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Gabriel Gonzalez, and somewhere Alan Roden's going to get at bats in that bit. Kalen Culpepper's playing short.
Hey.
Connor Pralip's in the rotation. Andrew Morris is in the rotation.
That's great.
Kendrys Rojas is in the rotation. Mm-hmm. Marco Rea, who may have, actually, Troy Hawkins told me in camp when I was there, Rea's like the nastiest pitcher he's ever played catch with. He said his stuff is just moving. If he can harness that, he's going to be a force. Those guys are all going to play this year in the majors at one time or another because of injuries or because someone is playing inadequately.
Yep.
So I know, Commons comes on after you, and he hates the phrase silver linings, but this season should be a means to an end.
Well, you're a Paulette pocket protector, according to him.
This is about getting closer to the future because these guys are knocking on the door. And
you'll still watch 70% of the games.
Yeah, I will. I will. I'm going to be racing out here to get set up to watch the Orioles game. Oh, I might as well point this out, too. On StarTribune.com, beat writer Bobby Nightingale, myself, Jim Suhan, possibly Patrick Racy. We're all going to be live blogging during the game. So check the website today for...
What do you mean you got to rush out of here to get ready for the game? You live 25 minutes from here, and the game's in 2 hours and change.
I'm watching it at a certain location in town. I need to get set up. I need to get equipment set up.
I haven't been to Brits in quite some time. Do they still show a lot of soccer?
I don't think Brits has ever shown a baseball game, ever. Maybe cricket. Or maybe the lawn bowling championship, since they have leagues on the rooftop.
They got a bit and they stick to it, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's their fastball. They stick with their fastball. No change-ups.
Well, I was stupid enough for a moment, Lavelle, that I was going to ask you, well, what is there to be optimistic about? And is that truly what it is with the baseball team right now? Is forget even you might watch them in April at CHS Field, but you're going to watch those prospects in Target Field by the time we switch the seasonal calendar over to summer. And so winnable division, AL Central still tough in terms of the overall quality and talent of
Tigers
the division.
are tough. Tigers are the lock to win, damn near.
They pretty much are, aren't they?
Yep.
And White Sox are still White Sox. Royals mid lane. I mean, what is the so what is the optimism as it pertains to this team? Just Royce Lewis turning a corner back to the days of old and staying healthy. Buxton building off of, sadly, what was an unbelievable season he had a year ago, while we were fire sailing half the team. Like, what is the Twins fan super optimistic about as this thing gets rolling?
Be optimistic that Target Field is one of the top 10, if not maybe top 7 ballparks in America.
Oh, okay.
And it's a wonderful place to spend a warm summer afternoon or evening watching games.
Are ticket prices reasonable? Or, I mean, like professional sports ticket prices ain't great, at least as the budgets go, comparatively speaking. But, if you come into the season knowing that you have a product that, percentage-wise is favored to win fewer games than it loses. Mm-hmm. I mean, ticket prices, are anything done there? Get Billy and Johnny in there?
I don't think they've slashed ticket prices. I think they've been trying hard to retain some of the people that they're losing. Tom Pola calling season ticket holders, asking them not to abandon ship. They're enticing people with
he calls them personally?
Yeah, he did. Everyone who did not renew their season tickets, he called personally.
Yeah, I'll renew my 4 season tickets if you give me 0.1%. Interest in that bank over there, and then we got a deal.
And, one guy didn't believe it. He thought he was being a victim of a prank and just didn't believe it. And when he finally realized it was actually Tom Pollard, then he dropped a few bombs and hung up on him. So
I'm not laughing. Are you kidding me?
That's true.
That really happened?
He said. Pollard told the story.
Damn.
Yes.
All right. Now, in deep stretch with Lavelle Neal III, Thad Levine, former Twins general manager, joins around the corner, and we think you'll like that interview. Some stories that you've written of late. You touched on Twins hitters having something to prove. Royce Lewis is at top of that list. You hit that. In what ways does Brett Larson check all the boxes as new Gophers hockey coach?
Yeah, just, I didn't know much about Brett Larson. I got to be honest with you. I didn't know 2 weeks ago. I didn't know who the hell he was. But
you've always been a Scott Sandlin guy with the Duluth Bulldogs.
Yeah, exactly. But Mike Hastings.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
But when Motzko and the Gophers parted ways, I started, calling around to the hockey cognoscenti in town just to kind of get their opinions.
And how is Pat Micheletti?
And the first person I talked to said, there's only one candidate. It's Brett Larson. I was like, what? So
Grant Patolni was like, mother.
Yeah. So I started asking about this guy, and the Michelettis and the Lunennis of the world spoke glowingly of him about his ability to communicate with players.
I think Brock Faber did too.
To run a game, to handle a coaching staff. It seemed like he, in that way, he kind of checked all the boxes as to be in charge of one of the elite programs in college hockey, which is the University of Minnesota. He's leaving St. Cloud. He's got better resources here, better facilities. He's got a good recruiting class coming in. There's going to be turnover. There's going to be people that he's probably going to get to come here, and there's probably going to be people here that he wants to leave. Right. There's going to be turnover. But I felt confident, especially after listening to him in the press conference, that the Gophers are going to come out on the other end of this in really good fashion here.
The NFL draft is a month from today.
Oh, God.
Where do your Bears pick?
I believe 18th.
No, that's the Vikings 18th.
Oh, so the Bears are 22nd?
Okay.
That shows you how much I've been paying attention.
That's fine.
Because once you are in the top 15, it doesn't freaking matter.
No, but you're a Major League Baseball beat writer by trade.
Bears are 25th.
By night. So therefore, this twin season opener and Giants and Yankees last night, that's taken all of your attention. No, we completely understand. But
that was a butt kicking.
A lot of local chatter about Oregon safety Dylan Thieneman. And the more I think about it, and I don't think he's going to get there, Holy cow, does he fit your squad?
Hey, what?
I mean, that would be an A-plus pick if they could find their way to that kid.
Yeah, I've heard that 18 times you told the story about riding to the combine next to the
13 times.
To the
and the
Oregon
guy
kicker.
has Atticus Sappington. I've told it 13 times because it's unique. And I work at KFAN, and we're redundant and fat and happy, and we run bits into the ground. So it fits the motif.
And because you got 45 segments to fill every week.
Thank you.
The weird part is after storytelling number one, I was watching the combine.
Yeah, you loved him.
And so Thiedemann pops up. I was like, This dude's an athletic freak.
Okay, when Atticus Sappington is kicking for the Chicago Bears, and we
could use a kicker upgrade a little bit.
I'm telling you right now that the Chicago Bears will be in play for Atticus Sappington, my friend. He's my friend. And you're looking for a working cell phone number? You better look elsewhere, brother. You better look to Dylan Thieneman or Keenan Howry, who used to play at Oregon. You better find somebody else other than me.
I saw
when Sappington walks off on Green Bay at Lambeau and you want a working cell phone number, remember this moment.
I think the Bears do fine at kicker, and it doesn't have to be Sappington.
That's what they said about Kevin Butler. No, actually, he worked well.
Butler,
I know,
that was great.
That was terrible. All right, love you, and can't wait to see you next week. Enjoy the games today, and Sky you Mob. Thank you, Wobble.
Later.
Lavelle Neal III, columnist, Star Tribune, former Minnesota Twins general manager, and a podcasting star. Thad Levine joins 9 to noon next.
I can't wait until tomorrow.
Joining us now to close festivities is former Minnesota Twins general manager Thad Levine. 8 years here as GM and now is a special advisor for the Milwaukee Brewers and a host of a podcast called Rosters to Rings. Watch this via YouTube at Rosters to Rings. That's what you would follow via YouTube, and subscribe if you're so inclined, as I did yesterday, and follow via X at Rosters to Rings, at Rosters to Rings. And here comes Thad, my man. It's so awesome talking on the radio to you again. What's going on, Thad Levine?
Well, it is absolutely wonderful to connect with you again. As I said to you before, you're such a treasure to the market. Your passion, your knowledge is off the charts for football, for basketball, for baseball. You're a treasure to the marketplace. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
Well, God bless you, my man, for that fellowship and the nice words. Now, when you were general manager here, you probably never pondered like a YouTube channel with a bunch of subscribers or using Twitter to chat about anything, but that's our world. And when you're doing a podcast, that's kind of part of it, right?
It is, Paul, and it was something my wife inspired. Actually, when I was at home, took a step away from the game for a year. She said, "You've got some great stories. You've had some exceptional experiences, and you've met some wonderful people. Why don't you share that with the audience?" And so I tried it out and got some good reviews, and just kept doing it. And so the goal of it was really just to take listeners and fans behind the scenes of what do general managers do on an annual basis, and how do they make decisions, and who do they interact with. And it's been really, really rewarding to do.
Yeah, this podcast and via YouTube or whether you just listen to it or whatever, Rosters to Rings, it's smart. I mean, I apologize for just finding out about this thing. Actually, I found out about your podcast from mutual friend Adam Kaplan, who's a National Football League reporter. I've known Adam for a quarter century, and he was bragging about being on your podcast. And I'm like, that's right. Dad told me about that within the last year. So then I went and did a Covenant catch-up, and it's a smart podcast. And Thad, being the former general manager of a Major League Baseball team, the Minnesota Twins, there are just so many great stories that you share, like your wife said. And let me ask you this. Do you think general managers in any sport, any pro sport, do you think general managers have burner accounts and argue with fans on social media?
I think there's some legends of that taking place. I would never, ever touch that. I think that's a pretty dangerous land to live in, but I never would do that. But Paul, the whole premise of this thing was that, we do get exposed to so many great things, but we also share so little of it with the fans when we're in the seat because of competitive advantages or ownership mandates or league mandates. And so the goal of this was to take away the burner account. Just let's be ourselves. Let's reveal how we do really make these decisions. I think there's so much speculation out there as to how we're doing it, or we're going to tell you the real scoop as to how we're doing this. And it's not always the most flattering, as you know. We make mistakes along the way. We learn from those mistakes. But we're going to reveal all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thad, you said something recently with my friend Adam Kaplan on one of the Rosters to Rings podcasts. Might have been the most recent, unless you did something within the last 24 hours. And it really resonated with me. It involved fan reaction to things. Now, Thad said fans, and this is not an affront. We're not casting an aspersion here. It was part of a conversation, all right? So let's keep the context right. Thad said fans can't relate to athletes' level of talent, but they can relate to their flaws. I found it to be profound. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think this was one of the biggest lessons I learned in my career, Paul, which was at the heart of it, even though you're working in a front office, you're a fan. And so I was working for the Colorado Rockies at the time, and I think I revered the players, and I never thought that I had the ability to help them in any way. I wasn't obviously going to go in there and teach them how to field a ground ball or throw a slider or anything like that. But the more that you met them, the more you realize that they are also facing some of the same trials and tribulations that the rest of us do face. And while they are exceptionally talented at least one thing in their lives, as you know, some of these guys are multi-sport athletes, so they're talented at multiple things in their lives. They also face the same level of insecurities and challenges that the rest of us do. And so the more that I think you can make the players relatable to the fans, I think that's a whole different level than just making them revered. I think when the fan connects with the player at that level, I think it can be a really profound connection. And one of the most, extreme cases of that for me in my career was Josh Hamilton. I'm not sure I've ever gotten to see a player play who is as talented as he was, but also who was as flawed as he was. And the talent was something I think people oohed and ahed and wowed about. But I think it was his flaws that made him so relatable and made him one of the best and most favored players of that generation for the Texas Rangers.
Amen to that, Thad. Wow, that was put very well. Now, a couple of months ago, the podcast, which is Rosters to Rings, followed that via X and or YouTube. The podcast was about the genius of Philadelphia Eagles general manager Howie Roseman. What do you remember about that one and Howie Roseman, and what goes into the secret and the secret sauce? Because truly, he is really good at what he does.
He's exceptional. I mean, he's the guy who is kind of the mad scientist who is never stopping, tinkering, working, trying to gain on the margins. And as I'm following the NFL offseason, you're so much more well-versed in this than I am, Paul. But it's almost kind of makes you feel a little bit nervous when the Eagles haven't done a big thing yet, because there's always a big thing in the offing for the Philadelphia Eagles. And just when you're not looking, it seems as if Howie pulls off a massive move that really helps the team. I think he's created an environment and culture over there where they're able to take on players who maybe other teams aren't as enamored with due to some off-field challenges, but he's somehow created an environment where all of these guys can succeed and excel. One of the most fascinating things to me about Howie Roseman, and the first time I got a chance to meet him in person, was there was an era where I believe Chip Kelly was the head coach there, and they may have been a little bit at odds. And he actually took a year-long sabbatical. He traveled the world to meet with teams throughout the world, international soccer teams, rugby teams, tennis teams, NASCAR and Formula One teams. But he also met with the Texas Rangers to find out what were the best practices. And he came back a year later, better for having had the experience. And now all of a sudden he was applying the best of what he learned from every sport throughout the world to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think from that day to this, believe the Philadelphia Eagles have finished in either first or second place in each of those seasons and have a Super Bowl or two to their names since that time. So he is one of the brightest minds, I think, in all of sports. Maybe a name we don't hear about quite as often as we should, but a surefire Hall of Famer and a real value to the Philadelphia marketplace.
I pilfered slash stole slash found intel via the podcast with this one too. The WNBA and players came together in the 11th hour and got together on an agreement, and it's business as usual with the WNBA, they tell us. So truly, what were the players fighting for, and how did it work out for them?
Well, this information came to me by way of Trista Crick. I've got to give her all the credit. Mm-hmm. She was a wonderful guest we had on the show. And, Paul, I'm tipping my toes in a depth I wasn't familiar with. I didn't have a lot of experience in the WNBA, but Trista gave me a tremendous education. And I think what they're fighting for a lot of what the NBA players have already achieved. And there are a number of collective bargaining agreements behind in that regard. But as Trista educated me, they're looking for more access to a shared revenue stream with the owners in the WNBA. And I think they, started from a place of being kind of woefully behind. They were being treated as just mere employees who were given salaries, and those salaries were really substandard relative to what other professional athletes were making. And so those women were having to go abroad and subsidize their income. They were creating leagues in the United States to try to subsidize their income because playing in the WNBA alone was not sufficient enough for a living for those women. And that's where, so many of our professional sports started, but it was just so long ago. And so I think what they're trying to do is put the WNBA in a position where their players can afford a living from contributing to the league and exciting fans on a night in and a night out basis. That was the core pursuit that they had. And then I think there was a lot behind that, but fundamentally, I think they wanted just to put their players in a position where they did not have to go subsidize their income, but rather could make a living by playing in the WNBA.
A familiar voice for those of you listening to 9 to Noon, used to join all the time as general manager of the Minnesota Twins, Thad Levine, 8-year general manager for our Minnesota Twins. Today is opening day for the Twins. Yankees and Giants kicked it off last night, and Thad is a special advisor these days to the Milwaukee Brewers. Opening day for the Brew Crew today, too. How are your Brewers going to be this year?
Well, Paul, I'm getting to know the team inside and out, and it's an incredible organization here. They really have capitalized on doing some of the little things. I think we talk about our teams out there doing the small ball things necessary to win games. Well, the Milwaukee Brewers have proven that you can do that. They don't have murderer's row when it comes to power hitters, but what they do have is an exceptional defense, an exceptional bullpen, and Pat Murphy at the helm, he asks these guys to execute, and they get it done. It's a team that really uses their 26-man roster to the fullest. Everybody contributes, everybody participates, and everyone has gotten on board with this idea that the team is so much more important than any one individual. It's going to be a very interesting year for the Brewers. Freddie Peralta, their ace, was traded to the New York Mets. They got two really exciting up-and-coming prospects back in that deal. They also traded their starting third baseman to the Boston Red Sox and got three more really exciting prospects back in that deal. So there's a little bit of a youth movement going on in line with also trying to defend two-time National League Central Division championship. So it's going to be a very interesting team. My hunch in seeing this team playing in spring training is I think it's going to continue to surprise some people. But I think as the season goes on, this team is going to get better and better and better. So they'll be playing at their best at the end of the season, which is the time where you really want your team to be shining. I think that's exactly when this team is going to be clicking on a lot of cylinders.
So Thad, with the Brewers, what do you do as special advisor?
Well, what I do is I specially advise people. I actually asked if I could be the especial advisor because that title was not out there yet. But what I'm doing right now, Paul, is I am getting an opportunity to work with some of their lead executives and just kind of share my experience that I've had throughout my career. Milwaukee is a wonderful franchise. They've done an exceptional job of promoting people from within, but as a result, they haven't had as many outside voices join their organization. Matt Klentak, former GM of the Philadelphia Phillies, joined 4 years ago, and I joined this offseason. And Matt Arnold, their president of baseball operations, I think has been very intentional on a very periodic basis, bringing in some outside voices and then giving them the rein to share the experiences they've had outside of the four walls of the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's primarily what I'm doing is I'm trying to give all these guys as much of my experience as I can, try to develop them, accelerate their paths and their growth. And then I'm participating in a lot of their executive decision making as they're trying to keep this window to win open. As a small market team, which, as you know, is exceptionally challenging, I think all hands are on deck here, and I've gotten an opportunity to participate in a lot of those decisions so far and look forward to continuing to contribute to the Milwaukee Brewers as they continue to keep this window to win open for hopefully a number more years.
I like that answer for what it's worth, and I'm going to be your surrogate big brother here and take this in complimentary fashion. You've worked in Major League Baseball for more than a quarter century. You've earned the special advisor role, which sounds like about a 15-yard trip to a mailbox once every 2 weeks. Got a nice little check in there, and then we do rosters to rings, and you just let that special advisor role grow into things that maybe help Milwaukee win some games. So I think that's really, really cool you're doing that, man. And, here, Thad, things are quite murky with the Minnesota Twins, as you know. Thad Levine, 8-year general manager here. Murky, and then Pablo Lopez gets hurt and is lost for the season, which is terrible. So if you were still general manager here and say in the hope selling business, what would you tell fans?
Well, Paul, as you know, I think there are a few things that are very exciting about the Minnesota Twins present and on the horizon. There was a painful incident last year at the trade deadline where they traded away about 10 major league players, and quite a few of those were household names and players that fans had really grown to love because they were competitive advantages for the Minnesota Twins. And I think the fans got a little bit of a taste of what they got in return the second half of last year. I think you're going to see a lot more of those players start matriculating to the big leagues. And as an industry, I think there are a lot of players that they acquired at that time that are quite exciting. And I think now that they'll get a chance to ease back into playing the major league level, I do think there's some excitement in the present and on the horizon based upon the cache of players that they got back at that time. Secondarily, I think, as you know, the American League Central is a very friendly division right now. I think the Detroit Tigers are kind of being pitched as the prohibitive favorite. But if we all recall, the last couple of years, the prohibitive favorite has not won the American League Central. The Detroit Tigers came out of kind of nowhere 2024, and then the Cleveland Guardians did in 2025. So it's, even if it is on paper perceived to be a division with a foregone conclusion, I think it's been anything but that over the last handful of seasons. So I think as long as the teams, the Twins, the Royals, Cleveland included, can stay in this through the thick of the season, it's anybody's division come the end of the season. And there's so many exciting players on the horizon here for the Minnesota Twins. And we've heard so long about Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez as two guys who have a chance to be stars in the big leagues. They're starting to creep closer and closer to the major leagues. And I think it's realistic to think come second half of the season, those guys could be major factors, Emmanuel Rodriguez maybe even before then. And then you've got the ushering in of a new era right now of leadership. You've got Tom Pohl at the helm, and Derek Shelton in the dugout. Jeremy Zoll's there as well. And so there's a time of transition that I think the fans are going to need to afford that trio to find their footing. But Derek Shelton is a name that our fans should know. He was the bench coach under Rocco Baldelli and Paul Molitor in his last year with the organization. He's an extremely upbeat individual. He's going to put a positive spin on everything. He's not going to let a 3-game losing streak turn into a 7-game losing streak. His spirits will always be high. He's going to be very accountable, but he's going to be very positive. And so I think for those reasons, the fans do have a lot to be excited about. Whether that actually materializes in 2026 or years to come, I wouldn't be able to prognosticate, but I do think the future is bright for the Minnesota Twins. It's just a matter of exactly when that future takes footing.
Last one, Thad. And again, the podcast is Rosters to Rings. Follow it at Rosters to Rings via X, and likewise for YouTube. This is Thad Levine, and here's the last one. NFL, and this is from one of the podcasts. What What do you think drove all those coaching changes we just had in the NFL? I have an opinion, but I want yours first. There were 10 coaches fired this offseason, man. Like a third of the league had to replace their coaches. What do you think?
Well, so Paul, this has been one of the things that's been enlightening to me doing the podcast, which is you get to research some of these things. In the past, I would just sit at a bar with my buddies or sit on my couch with some friends and talk about it, but you'd speculate about it. I actually have to research these things now because I have to be a credible source. And I was shocked to see that over the last 2 full seasons, if you take the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL, I think there's been close to 50% turnover in head coaches in those 3 leagues.
Whoa.
It's just an absolutely staggering figure. And what it made me feel, Paul, is I reflected on my role as an executive in a front office in which we preach patience. We tell the manager, hey, it's all about the process. It's not about the outcome. And then lo and behold, their job security is so fleeting. The job security of these head coaches across those 3 leagues is 3 years or fewer as a median. And so here we are preaching the process. We're preaching, patience and that sort of thing. And we need to sacrifice to be able to grow for the future. And then we're letting these guys go every 3 years. And I think it's just such a misalignment. And so then you look at teams like the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the continuity that they've had. And no wonder they've had success. I just think it really made me reflect that if I ever get a chance to hire a manager again in the future, how vital it is that their contract terms are aligned with yours so that their mindset can be aligned with yours. And don't get me wrong, I don't think contract length equals job security. Performance equals job security.
Yeah.
But I think we have to look at this through a different lens from an executive standpoint. We have to provide some more security for these guys. Otherwise, of course, they're going to feel like they have to white knuckle every single game. They have to eke out every single win. And when you do that, sometimes you make sacrifices that you shouldn't. And, we talked a little bit in that episode about the New York Giants and how they handled Jackson Dart. And maybe they were putting him a little bit in harm's way. But of course they were, because the head coach thought his job was on the line, which proved to be true. And he was trying to win every game, and he felt Jackson Dart was the right guy to do that, where the front office is trying to develop Jackson Dart. They're trying to protect the asset because they know he's so vital to the future of the franchise. We create those misalignments when the front office and the clubhouse are not on the same page. But I think that's shame on the front office. We have to change our mindsets there. We have to give these guys a sense of greater security on the front end so that they can be more aligned with what we're trying to achieve, such that when they don't achieve what we're trying to achieve, we shouldn't be surprised by that, because their jobs are so fleeting and they're coveting those jobs. So I think there's an opportunity for great growth and progress to be made here if we just shift our mindsets and we're more aligned with our head coaches moving forward.
I think that staggering number with those 3 leagues, including 10 openings with the NFL, which is unbelievable. I think it involves the owners and social media. And here's what I mean. So say you're in the thick of it as special advisor for the Brewers or general manager for the Twins. Like Dustin Morse may come up to you very rarely and say, all right, you probably haven't seen this, but so-and-so columnist or reporter took you to task here, and I just don't want you to be caught off guard. Other than that, coaches, managers, general managers, specifically during seasons, they're not looking at social media a lot. And if they do happen to fall into something, they don't marry themselves to it. Now, on the other side, you have owners of teams. They hear about things from family members. They're on social media a lot. And I just think things bubble and get to a point with owners of these teams where they may not even, fess up to this or say this is part of the reason why, but I think they get influenced by social media because they're spending so much time on it. What do you think about that?
I think you nailed it, Paul. I think you nailed it, and I'll take it one step further. I feel as if the vast majority of front office executives ultimately lose their job because they're trying to do what they believe the owner wants them to do.
Right. Or
they are doing exactly what the owner wants them to do, and then they realize that was not the right decision. They knew that all along, but they didn't push back on the owner for obvious reasons. Similarly, I think oftentimes head coaches, managers lose their job because they're trying to do what the general manager wanted them to do. If we could offer authentic job security such that the owner is hiring the general manager who they think is best capable to ferry their franchise forward. But if we can allow them to be the best version of themselves, and then similarly, if the general manager gives the job security necessary for the manager or head coach to shine and be the best version of themselves, how much better and more successful would these franchises be? I think that's where you look at franchises like the Steelers and Ravens come to mind as just the standard bearers of being able to achieve that, and what amazing success they've had over the years. That doesn't mean every year is a championship season, but the vast majority of them are competitive when you have alignment between the owner, the front office, and ultimately the head coach / manager.
Thad Levine, thank you very much for the time. Hey, Minnesota Wild, it's on you after what the Vikings did a couple of years ago, what the Timberwolves did last night.
Let's play hockey!
November 29th of 2000, the Blues were down 5-0 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Came back to win at 6-5 in overtime.
Let's go.
Chip chair chance in Sunrise, Florida tonight. Hey, God bless you and all of your families. Thank you very much for listening to 9 to Noon and FM 100.3 KFAN. Program is next.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.